India and the Prerequisites of Communism by Babasaheb Ambedkar. Chapter 3 Symbols of Hinduism. Part 1 Editorial Note in Source Publication. There are 37 pages under this title. The chapter seems incomplete. However, this relates to the topic number 7 of the original plan. All these pages are tagged along with his pages of India and Communism into one register. We are reproducing the text of this typed copy along with the table of contents written by Dr. Ambedkar. A photocopy of the plan of a proposed book, Can I Be a Hindu, is also reproduced from the original. Editors. Is there anything peculiar in the social organization of the Hindus? Can unsophisticated Hindu who is unaware of investigations conducted by scholars say that there is nothing peculiar, abnormal, or unnatural in the organization of Hindu society? This is quite natural. People who live their ways in isolation are seldom conscious of the peculiarities of their ways and their manners. People have gone on from generation to generation without stopping to give themselves a name. But how does the social organization of the Hindus strike the outsiders, the non Hindus? Did it appear to them as normal and natural as it appears to the Hindu? Megasthenes, who came to India as the ambassador of the Greek king Seleucus Nictator to the court of Chandragupta Maurya sometime around the year 305 BC, did feel that the social organization of the Hindus was of a very strange sort. Otherwise, he would not have taken such particular care to describe the peculiar features of the Hindu social organization. He has recorded the population of India is divided into 7 parts. The philosophers are first in rank but form the smallest class in point of number. Their services are employed privately by persons who wish to offer sacrifices or perform other sacred rites, and also publicly by the kings at what is called the Great Synod, wherein, at the beginning of the new year, all the philosophers are gathered together before the king at the gates, when any philosopher who may have committed any useful suggestion to writing or observed any means for improving the crops and the cattle or for promoting the public interests declares it publicly. If anyone is detected giving false information thrice, the law condemns him to be silent for the rest of his life. But he who gives sound advice is exempted from paying any taxes or contributions. The second caste consists of the husbandmen, who form the bulk of the population and are in disposition most mild and gentle. They are exempted from military service and cultivate their lands undisturbed by fear. They never go to town either to take part in its tumults or for any other purpose. It therefore not infrequently happens that at the same time and in the same part of the country, men may be seen drawn up in an array of battle and fighting at risk of their lives, while other men close at hand are ploughing and digging in perfect security, having these soldiers to protect them. The whole of the land is the property of the king, and the husbandman till on in condition of receiving 1/4 of the produce. The third caste consists of herdsmen and hunters who alone are allowed to hunt and to keep cattle and to sell draught animals or let them out on hire. In return for clearing the land of wild beasts and fowls which devour the seed sown in the fields, they receive an allowance of grain from the king. They lead wandering life and live under tents. The fourth class, after herdsmen and hunters, consists of those who work at trades, of those who vend trades, and of those who are employed in bodily labor. Some of these pay tribute and render to the state certain prescribed services, but the armor makers and shipbuilders receive wages and their victuals from the king, for whom alone they work. The general in command of the army supplies the soldiers with weapons, and the admiral of the fleet lets out ships on hire for the transport both of passengers and merchandise. The fifth class consists of fighting men who, when not engaged in active service, pass their time in idleness and drinking. They are maintained at the king's expense, and hence they are always ready, when occasion calls, to take the field, for they carry nothing of their own with them but their own bodies. The sixth class consists of the overseers, to whom is assigned the duty of watching all that goes on and making reports secretly to the king. Some are entrusted with the inspection of the city and others with that of the army. The former employs as their coadjutors the courtesans of the city, and the latter the courtesans of the camp. The ablest and most trustworthy men are appointed to fill these offices. The seventh class consists of the councillors and assessors of the king. To them belong the highest posts of government, the tribunals of justice, and the general administration of public affairs. No one is allowed to marry out of his own caste, or to exchange one profession or trade for another, or to follow more than one business. An exception is made in favor of the philosopher, who, for his virtue, is allowed this privilege. Al-Baruni, who wrote on account of his travels in India sometime about 1030 AD, must have been struck by the peculiarity of the Hindu social organization, for he too has not admitted to take and make a note of it in the record of impressions he made. He observed, the Hindus call their castes varna, that is, colors, and from a genealogical point of view, they call them jataka, that is, births. These castes are from the beginning only four. 1. The highest caste is the Brahmins, of whom the books of the Hindu tell that they are created from the head of Brahma. And a Brahma is only another name for the force called nature, and the head is the highest part of the animal body. The Brahmins are the choice part of the whole genus. Therefore, the Hindus consider them as the very best of mankind. 2. The next caste is the Kshatriya, who were created, as they say, from the shoulders and hands of Brahma. Their degree is not much below than that of the Brahmin. 3. After them follow the Vaishyas, who were created from the thigh of Brahma. 4. The Shudras, who were created from his feet. Between the latter two classes there is not very great distance. Much, however, as these classes differ from each other, they live together in the same towns and villages, mixed together in the same houses and lodgings. After the Shudras follow the people called Antyaja, who render services of various kinds, who are not reckoned among any caste, but only as members of a certain craft or profession. There are 8 classes of them who freely intermarry with each other, except the fuller, shoemaker, and weaver, for no others would consent and condescend to have anything to do with them. These 8 guilds are the fuller, shoemaker, juggler, basket and shield maker, sailor, fisherman, hunter of wild animals and of birds, and the weaver. The 4 castes do not live together with them in one and the same place. These guilds live near the villages and towns of the 4 castes, but outside them. The people called Hadi, Doma, Domba, Chandala, and Baddatai are not reckoned amongst any caste or guild. They are occupied with dirty work, like the cleansing of the villages and other services. They are considered as one sole class and distinguished only by their occupation. In fact, they are considered like illegitimate children, for according to general opinion, they descend from a Shudra father and a Brahmini mother as the children of fornication. Therefore, they are degraded outcasts. The Hindus give to every single man of the 4 castes characteristic names according to their occupations and modes of life. That is, the Brahmin is in general called by this name as long as he does his work staying at home. When he is busy with the service of 1 fire, he is called Ishtin. If he serves 3 fire, he is called Agnihotrin. If he besides offers an offering to the fire, he is called a Dikshita. And as it is with the Brahmana, so is also with the other castes. Of the classes beneath the castes, the Hadi are the best spoken of, because they keep themselves free from everything unclean. Next follow the Doma, who play on the lute and sing. The still lower classes practice as a trade killing and inflicting of judicial punishment. The worst of all are the Badhantan, who not only devour the flesh of dead animals, but even of dogs and other beasts. Each of the 4 castes, when eating together, must form a group of themselves, one group not being allowed to compromise and comprise 2 men of different castes. If further, in the group of the Brahmin, there are 2 men who live at enmity with each other, and the seat of the one is by the seat of the other, they make a barrier between the two seats by placing a board between them or by spreading a piece of dress or in some other way. And if there is only a line drawn between them, they are considered as separated. Since it is forbidden to eat the remains of any meal, every single man must have his food for himself. For if any one of the party who are eating should take of the food from one of the and the same plate, that which remains in the plate becomes, after the first eater has taken part, to him who wants to take as the second, the remains of the meal as such is forbidden. Al-Baruni did not merely content himself with recording what struck him as peculiar in the Hindu social organization. He went on to say, among the Hindu institutions of this kind abound. We Muslims, of course, stand entirely on the other side of the question, considering all men as equal, except in piety. And this is the greatest obstacle which prevents any approach or understanding between Hindus and Muslims. Duarte Barbosa, who was a Portuguese official in the service of the Portuguese government of India in 1500 to 1571, has left a record of his impressions of Hindu society. This is what struck him. Speaking of the kingdom of Gujarat, and before this kingdom, Guzarte fell into the lands of the Moors, a certain caste of heathen whom the Moors called Rajputs, dwelt therein, who in those days were the knights and the wardens of the land, and made war wheresoever it was needful. These men kill and eat sheep and fish and all other kinds of food in the mountains. There are any one of them where they have great villages and obey not the king of the Guzarte, but rather wage daily war against him, who, do what he may, is yet not able to prevail against them, nor will he do so, for they are very fine horsemen and good archers, and have besides divers other weapons to defend themselves withal against the Moors, on whom they make war without ceasing. Yet have they no king nor lord over them. And in this kingdom there is another sort of heathen whom they call Brahmanas, who are great merchants and traders. They dwell amongst the Moors with whom they carry on their trade. This people eat neither flesh, nor anything subject to death. They slay nothing, nor are they willing even to see the slaughter of any animal, and thus they maintain their idolatry and hold it so firmly that it is a terrible thing. For often it is so that the Moors take to them live insects or small birds and make as though to kill them in their presence, and the Banyanas buy these and ransom them, paying much more than they are worth, so that they may save their lives and let them go. And if the king or a governor of the land has any man condemned to death for any crime which he has committed, they gather themselves together and buy him from justice if they are willing to sell him, that he may not die. And divers Moorish mendicants as well, when they wish to obtain alms from his people, take great stones wherewith they beat upon their shoulders and bellies as though they would slay themselves before them, to hinder which they give them great alms that may depart in peace. Others carry knives with which they slash their arms and legs, and to these too they give large alms that they may not kill themselves. Others go to their doors seeking to kill rats and snakes for them, and to do them they also give them money. Thus they are much esteemed by the Moors. When these Banyanas meet with a swarm of ants on the road, they shrink back and seek for some way to pass without crushing them. And in their houses they sup by daylight, to, for neither by night nor by day will they light a lamp, by reason of certain little flies which perish in the flame thereof. And if there is any great need of a light by night, they have a lantern of varnished paper or cloth, so that no living thing may find its way in and die in the flame. And if these men breathe many lies, they kill them not, but when they trouble them too much, will send for certain men also heathen, who living among them and whom they hold to be men of a holy life. They are like hermits living with great abstinence through devotion to their gods. These men house them, and as many lice as they catch, they place on their own heads and breed them on their own flesh, by which they say they do a great service to their idol. Thus, one and all they maintain with great self-restraint their law of not killing. On the other hand, they are of great usurers, falsifiers of weights and measures, and many other goods of coin, and great liars. These heathen are tawny men, tall and well-looking, gaily attired, delicate and moderate in their food, Their diet is of milk, butter, sugar, rice, and many conserves of diverse sort. They make much use of dishes of fruit like vegetables and pot herbs in their food. Whosoever they dwell, they have orchards and fruit gardens and many water tanks wherein they bathe twice a day, both men and women, and they say when they have finished bathing that they are clear of as many sins as they have committed up to that hour. These Brahmanas grow very long hair, as women do with us, and wear it twisted upon on the head and made it into a knot, and over it a turban, that they may keep it always held together, and in their hair they put flowers and other sweet scented things. They used to anoint themselves with white sandalwood mixed with saffron and other scents. They are very amorous people. They are clad in long cotton and silken shirts and are shod with pointed shoes of richly wrought corduroy. Some of them wear short coats of silk and brocade. They carry no arms except certain very small knives ornamented with gold and silver, and this for two reasons. First, because they are men who make little use of weapons, and secondly, because the Moors defend them. And there is here another class of heathen whom they call Brahmins, who are priests among them, and people who manage and rule their houses of prayer and idol worship, which are of great size and have great revenues, and many of them are also maintained by alms. In these houses are great numbers of wooden idols, and others of stone and copper, and of these houses or monasteries they celebrate great ceremonies in honor of these idols, entertaining them with great store of candles and oil lamps, and with bells after our fashion. These Brahmins and heathen have in their creed many resemblance to the Holy Trinity, and hold in great honor the relation of the Triune Three, and always make their prayers to God, whom they confess and adore as the true God, Creator and Maker of all things, who is three persons and one God, and they say that there are many other gods who are rulers under him, in whom also they believe. These Brahmins and heathen, wheresoever they find our churches, enter them and make prayers and adorations to our images, always asking for Santa Maria, like men who have some knowledge and understanding of these matters, and they honor the church as is our manner, saying that between them and us there is little difference. These men never eat anything subject to death, nor do they slay anything. Bathing they hold to be a great ceremony, and they say that by it they are saved. Speaking of the kingdom of Calicut, Barbarossa says, there is also in this same kingdom of Calicut a caste of people called Brahmins who are priests among them, as are the clergy among us, of whom I have spoken in another place. These all speak the same tongue, nor can any be a Brahmin except be the son of a Brahmin. When they are 7 years of age, they put over their shoulders a strip of 2 fingers in breadth of untanned skin, which the hair on it of a certain wild beast, which they called Krivarmegam, which resembles a wild ass. Then for 7 years he must not eat betel, for which time he continues to wear this strap. When he is 14 years old, they make him a Brahmin, and taking off their leather strap, they invest him with a cord of 3 strands, which he wears for the rest of his life as the token that he is a Brahmin. And this they do with great ceremonial and rejoicing, as we do here for a cleric when he sings his first mass. Thereafter he may eat betel, but not flesh or fish. They have great honor among the Indians, and as I have already said, they suffer deaths for no cause whatsoever. Their own headman gives them a mild chastisement. They marry once only in our manner, and only the eldest son marries. He is treated like the head of an entailed estate. The other brothers remain single all their lives. These Brahmins keep their wives well guarded and greatly honored, so that no other man may sleep with them. If any of them die, they do not marry again. But if a woman wrongs her husband, she is slain by poison. The brothers who remain bachelors sleep with the Naire women, who hold it to be a great honor. And as they are Brahmins, no woman refuses herself to them. Yet they may not sleep with any other woman older than themselves. They dwell in their own houses and cities and serve as clergy in the houses of worship, whither they go to pray at certain hours of the day, performing their rituals and idolatries. Some of these Brahmins serve the kings in every manner except in arms. No man may prepare any food for the king except a Brahmin or of his own kin. They also serve as couriers to other countries with letters, money, or merchandise, passing wherever they wish to go in safety, and none does them any ill, even when the kings are at war. These Brahmins are learned in their idolatry and possess many books thereof. The kings hold them in high esteem. I have spoken many times of the Nayars, and yet I have not hitherto told you what manner of men they are. You are to know that in this land of Malabar there is another caste of people called Nayars, and among them are noble men who have no other duty than to serve in war, and they always carry their arms wherever they go, some swords and shields, other bows and arrows, and yet others spears. They all live with the king and the other great lords, nevertheless all receive stipends from the king to become a Nayar, save only he who is of Nayar lineage. They are very free from stain in their nobility. They will not touch anyone of low caste, nor eat nor drink save in the house of an Nayar. These men are not married. Their nephews, sisters, sons are their heirs. The Nayar women of good birth are very independent and dispose of themselves as they please with Brahmins and Nayars, but they do not sleep with men of caste lower than their own under pain of death. When they reach the age of 12 years, their mothers hold a great ceremony. When a mother perceives that her daughter has attained that age, she asks her kinfolk and friends to make ready to honor her daughter. Then she asks of the kindred, and especially of one particular kinsman or great friend, to marry her daughter. This he willingly promises, and then he has a small jewel made, which would contain a half ducat of gold, long like a ribbon, with a hole through the middle which comes out on the other side, strung on a thread of white silk. The mother then, on a fixed day, is present with her daughter, gaily decked with many red jewels, making great rejoicing with music and singing, and a great assembly of people. Then the kinsman or friend comes bringing the jewel, and going through certain forms, throws it over the girl's neck. She wears it as a token all the rest of her life, and may then dispose of herself as she wills. The man departs without sleeping with her, inasmuch as he is her kinsman. If he is not, he may sleep with her, but he is not obliged to do so. There, thenceforward, the mother goes about searching and asking some young men to take her daughter's virginity. They must be Nayars, and they regard it amongst themselves as a disgrace and a foul thing to take a woman's virginity. And when anyone has slept once with her, she is fit for association with men. Then the mother again goes about inquiring among other Nayars if they wish to support her daughter and take her as a mistress, so that 3 or 4 Nayars agree with her to keep her, to sleep with her, each paying her so much a day. The more lovers she has, the greater is her honor. Each of them, one of them, passes a day with her from midday on one day till midday on the next day, so they continue living quietly without any disturbances or quarrels among them. If any of them wishes to leave her, he leaves her and takes another. And she also, if she is weary of a man, she tells him to go, and he does go or makes terms with her. Any children they may have stay with the mother who is to bring them up, for they hold him not to be the children of any man, even if they bear his likeness. And they do not consider them their children, nor are they heirs to their estates, for as I have already stated, their heirs are their nephews, sons of their sisters, which rule whosoever will consider inwardly in his mind will find that it was established with a greater and deeper meaning than the common folk think. For they say that the kings of the Nayars instituted in it the order that the Nayars should not be held back from their service by the burden and labor of rearing children. In this kingdom of Malabar, there is also another caste of men whom they call Biabaris, Indian merchants, natives of the land. They deal in goods of every kind, both in the seaports and inland, wherever their trade is of the most profit. They gather to themselves all the pepper and ginger from the Nayars and husbandmen, and oft times they buy the new crops beforehand in exchange for cotton clothes and other goods, which they keep at the seaports. Afterwards, they sell them again and again, much money thereby. These privileges are such that the king of the country in which they dwell cannot execute them by legal process. There is in this land yet another caste of folk known as the Kuavan. They do not differ from the Nayars, yet by reason of a fault which they committed, they remain separate from them. Their business is to make pottery and bricks for roofing the houses of the kings and the idols, which are roofed with bricks instead of tiles. Only these, for as I have already said, other houses are thatched with branches. They have their own sort of idolatry and their separate idols. There is another heathen caste which they called Mainatos, whose occupation is to wash the clothes for the kings, Brahmins, and the Nayars. By this they live and may not take up any other. There is yet another class which they call Kaletis, who are weavers who have no other way of earning save by weaving of cotton and silk clothes, but they are a low caste folk and have but little money, so they clothe the lower races. They are apart by themselves and have their own idolatry. Besides the castes mentioned above, there are 11 others lower than they, with whom the others do not associate, nor do they touch them under pain of death, and there are great distinctions between one and another of them, preserving them from mixture with one another. The purest of all these low, simple men they call Tuyas. Their work is mainly that of tending the palm groves and gathering the fruit thereof, and carrying it away for wages on their back, for there are no beasts of burden in the land. There is another caste still lower than these whom they call Manan, Manchu in the printed text, who neither associate with others nor touch them, nor do the other touch them. They are washermen for the common people, and makers of sleeping mat, from which occupations all but they are barred. Their sons must follow the same trade. They have their own separate idolatry. There is another caste in this land still lower whom they call Kanakwas. Their trade is making buckles and umbrellas. They learn letters for purposes of astronomy. They are great astrologers and foretell with great truth things that are to come. There are some lords who maintain them for this cause. There is another lower caste of heathens called Agri. They are masons, carpenters, smiths, metal workers, and some are goldsmiths. Their idols apart from other folk. They marry and their sons inherit their property and learn their father's trade. There is another caste still lower in this country called the Mogeres. They are almost the same as the Tuyas, but they do not touch even one another. They work as carriers of all things belonging to the royal state when it moves from one place to another. But there are very few of them in this land. They are a separate caste. They have no marriage law, and the most of them gain their living on the sea. They are sailors, and some are fishers. They have no idols. They are as well slaves of the Nayars. There is another caste yet lower whom they call Monkar, fishers who have no other work than fishing, yet some sail in the Moor ship and in those of the heathens, and they are very expert seamen. This race is very rude, they are shameless thieves. They marry and their sons succeed them, their women are of loose character, they sleep with anyone, whosoever, and it is held no evil. They have their own idolatry. In this land of Malabar, there is another caste of heathen even lower than those whom they call Betunes. Their business is salt making and rice growing. They have no other livelihood. They dwell in houses standing by themselves in the fields away from the roads, whither the gentle folk do not walk. They have their own idolatry. They are slaves of the king and Nayars and pass their lives in poverty. The Nayars make them walk far away from them and speak to them from afar off. They hold no intercourse with any other caste. There is another caste of heathen even lower and ruder whom they call Panins, who are great sorcerers and live by no other means. There is another caste lower and ruder than they, called Revolines, a very poor folk, who live by carrying firewood and grass to the towns. They may touch none, nor may any touch them under pain of death. They go naked, covering only their private parts with scant and filthy rags, the more part of them indeed with leaves of certain trees. Their women wear many brass rings in their ears, and on their necks, arms, and legs, necklaces and bracelets of heads. And there is yet another caste of heathens lower than these whom they call Polias, who live among all the rest, are held to be accursed and excommunicated. They dwell in the fields and open campaigns in secret lurking places where the folk of good caste never go save by mischance and live in huts very strut and mean. They are tillers of rice with buffaloes and oxen. They never speak to the Nayars save from afar off, shouting so that they may hear them. And when they go along the roads, they utter loud cries that they may be let past, and whosoever hears them leaves the road, and standing in the wood till they have passed a boy. And if anyone, whether man or woman, touches them, his kinfolk slay him forthwith. And in vengeance, therefore, they slay Polias until they are weary without suffering any punishment. Yet another caste that is even lower and baser called Parans, who dwell in the most desert places away from all the castes. They have no intercourse with any person nor anyone with them. They are held to be worse than devils and to be damned. Even to see them is to be unclean and outcast. They eat yams and other roots of wild plants. They cover their middle with leaves, and they also eat the flesh of wild beasts. With these end the distinctions between the castes of the heathen, which are 18 in all, each one separate and unable to touch others or marry with them, and besides these 18 castes of the heathen who are natives of the Malabar, which I have now related to you, there are others of outlandish folk merchants and traders in the land, where they possess houses and estates, living like the natives, yet with customs of their own. These foreigners were not able to give a full and detailed picture of the caste. This is understandable, for to every foreigner, the private life of the Hindu is veiled, and it is not possible for him to penetrate it. The social organism of India, the play of its motive forces, is moreover regulated infinitely more by custom, carrying according to locality and baffling in its complexity, than by any legal formula which can be picked out from a legal textbook. But there is no doubt that caste did appear to the foreigner as the most singular and therefore the most distinguishing feature of Hindu society. Otherwise, they would not have noted its existence in the record they made of what they observed when they came to India. Caste, therefore, is something special in the Hindu social organization and marks off the Hindus from the other peoples. Caste has been a growing institution. It has never been the same at all times. The shape and form of caste as it has existed when Megasthenes wrote this account was very different from what the shape and form it has taken when Al-Biruni came, and the appearance it gave to the Portuguese was different from what it was in the time of Al-Biruni. But to understand caste, one must have more exact idea of its nature than these foreigners are able to give. To follow the discussion of the subject of caste, it is necessary to familiarize the reader with some basic conceptions which underlie the Hindu social organization. The basic conception of social organization which prevails among the Hindus starts with the rise of four classes of Varnas into which Hindu society is believed to have become divided. These four classes were named Brahmins, the priestly and educated, Kshatriyas, the military, Vaishyas, the trading, and Shudras, the servant classes. For a time, these were merely classes. After a time, what were only classes, Varnas, became castes, Jatis, and the four castes became 4,000. In this way, the modern caste system was only the evolution of the ancient Varna system. No doubt the caste system is an evolution of the Varna system, but one can get no idea of the caste system by a study of the Varna system. Caste must be separated from the Varna. The end.